Hey guys, my name is Swasti and today we shall talk about how to find the best stocks to invest in. Okay, so let's just get straight into the video. So first and foremost is to only invest in what you know. Okay, so a lot of investors think that they can judge whether a company is a great company or a stock is a great stock just by reading its financials. For example, balance sheet, income statement, and etc. But that's not true. So actually, if you can't identify how a stock or how a company, right, makes their profits, you won't be able to identify, let's say, their competitive strengths and weaknesses. So that means that you won't be able to, let's say, predict or have a rough idea on whether they'll be sustainable 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, or even 30 years down the road, right? Because you won't be able to understand their cash flow statements. So one way to actually identify great stocks, which is something that I learned from Peter Lynch, right, is to, let's say, take a trip down to your local shopping mall. So try to notice where are people, actually shopping, right? Where are the queues? Where's the crowd? So personally for me, that's how I got an interest in stocks such as Starbucks, right? Because every time I try to go to a Starbucks and find a seat, I can't, right? Because that's just how crowded Starbucks is. So that made me interested to go and learn about how they actually make their money. So I'm not saying that you should invest in Starbucks. I'm just saying that maybe that's how you can find companies and then research on it to decide whether you should actually invest in the company. So if you guys are interested, I suggest you take a look at this book, One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch. I will leave the link down below if you want to purchase it. So he does discuss in detail on how you can identify, let's say, great winning stocks, right? And he also goes in detail about, let's say, his wife, like how his wife always used to shop in a certain area and then how he identified stocks that way, right? So another way to know if a stock is a great stock is to actually look at the management and culture. So we want companies that have good management and culture. Okay, so one way to identify such things is, for example, things like Facebook and Alibaba. So one thing that these two companies have in common is that the founder of the company is actually the CEO of the company. This means that the business itself is actually led by passion, right? And when it's led by passion, right, people are really motivated to make this business even better. That is good for you because you know that the CEO is trying their best to make it a better company for it to grow, which means that your stock can potentially grow. So one way is to see how happy employees are and how efficient they are working in a company. So of course, the more efficient and happy they are, the more profits a company will get. So one way to see this is to visit websites such as glassdoor.com, where you can see reviews about companies, right, written by people or employees themselves. Or you can also look at the employee retention rate. Obviously, the lesser people that are leaving the company, it means that people are generally happy and they like to stick around in a company. So that's all for good management and culture. So let's move on, right? The next point is that we want companies that have a strategy for growth, right? We don't want to be investing in a company that's going to be stagnant forever. That means that we are not generating any profits and we don't want that, right? So one way to take a look at it is, let's say Starbucks, for example. If its prices were to increase 10 cents, would you still buy that same cup of coffee that you are now buying? Or let's say it increases for 20 cents or even $1, would you still spend that money to buy a cup of coffee? If the answer is yes, then maybe they do have a strategy for growth, because even with inflation, people are still willing to spend their money to buy that same cup of coffee. But if the answer is no, then maybe you might want to look for, do they have another strategy for growth? So another example that I can give you are airline companies, right? So airline companies are actually highly affected by fuel prices. So as fuel prices fluctuate up and down, airline stocks also fluctuate up and down, okay? Because they're dependent on each other. So I'm not saying airline companies are bad and you shouldn't invest in it, but generally, if you want to find a great company, you want to identify companies that are not affected by external factors, such as fuel pricing, for example. But of course, there are great airline companies out there, so if you like them, go ahead and know there are so many more factors that actually affect a stock. So last but not least, we want to invest in companies that have good financials and valuations. There are three important financial statements that you can take a look at. The first is a cash flow statement, second is an income statement, and last but not least is the balance sheet. So in these three different things, you can identify a lot of different financials like the PE ratio, the current ratio, and looking at the debts of the company, right? So you don't want to be investing in a company that has high debt, for example, right? And that can be seen from the balance sheet. Then from the cash flow statement, we can see how much profit a company is generating, right? We want to invest in a company that has a lot of free cash flow, right? If not, it means that they're not making profit, it means you are not making any profit, right? Then from the income statement, we can see the growth and the profit of a company. So if a company has been growing consistently for, let's say, 30% a year, then maybe that's a company you should take a look at, right? Means that your investments might potentially grow 30% every year. Right. So I don't want to go too in depth on how to read a financial statement. I might make another video on that because the video will be way too long. But yeah, with that, you're ready to actually invest and find your great stocks. Let me know in the comments down below what you think and what you want to hear next, and give a like and subscribe for more videos.